Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, a hit-and-run accident over the weekend leaves a 5-year-old with serious injuries. More fear over referendum misinformation.
2 police officers brought before the magistrate's court today. That and more tonight on our news.
Residents outraged over the bridge toll increase. That story straight ahead on our news.
Welcome to our news. I'm Christina McNeil. Thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight, 2 former police constables were charged in the magistrate's court today in connection with recent theft at the Bahamas Telecommunications Company. The officers are accused of stealing cell phones from BTC after visiting the store to investigate a break-in. Giorgio Bain has the details.
2 former police constables were brought before the magistrate's court today to face charges of stealing from the Bahamas Telecommunications Company. Altogether, the police officers have a tenure of over 34 years on the police force. Herman Pinder, a 32-year-old former constable who has been on the police force for 8 years, and Ricardo Bain, a 44-year-old former police constable who has been on the police force for 26 years, appeared before Magistrate Andrew Forbes on charges of stealing from a shop. It is alleged that on Friday, April 29th, the police officers were responding to an alarm activation at the Bahamas Telecommunications Company location in the R&D Plaza on John F. Kennedy Drive. Upon their arrival, the pair allegedly confirmed that there was a break-in at the location. It is also alleged that the pair removed 3 Samsung J1 cell phones with an estimated cost of $435. The court heard that as the investigation was underway, other police officers viewed the surveillance footage. The pair was seen placing the phones in their bosom area. At the time, they denied having the cell phones until they were shown the surveillance footage. After viewing the footage, both officers allegedly turned in the stolen cell phones. Pinder allegedly had 2 in his possession and Bain had 1 in his. Both officers pled guilty to the charges in court. Devad Francis, who represented Pinder, asked that no custodial sentence be handed down to his client. He emphasized to the magistrate that his client did not waste the court's time by pleading guilty at his earliest convenience. Francis added that Pinder showed remorse for his actions and is the sole breadwinner of his household. Francis added that Pinder had allegedly suffered enough embarrassment by being discharged from the police force, having been arrested and held at the station that he formerly worked at, and having the story broadcasted via social media. Maria Jackson, who represented Bain, also asked for no jail time for her client. She stressed that Bain is married with 2 children and is the sole breadwinner of his household. She recommended community service instead, as her client served his country as the police officer for 26 years. I am always lost for words when officers of the law appear before me in the court of law, Magistrate Forbes said. I do not grasp how 2 officers charged with securing a crime scene can decide to help themselves to someone else's property. He added, this kind of situation creates the feeling in society that you cannot trust police officers. For $435, you have lost your jobs, the respect of your colleagues, and may face imprisonment, said Magistrate Forbes. Both men were fined $3,000 each. Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Meantime, a 23-year-old man has been charged with a recent murder on Wolf Road. Shaquille Monroe is accused of the April 2nd murder of 25-year-old Janelle Pierre, also known as Blacka or 5 Cent of Golden Isles Road. Reports are that shortly after 1 a.m. on Saturday, a man was found with gunshot wounds outside a nightclub located on Wolf Road. The victim was transported to hospital where he later succumbed to his injuries. The matter will proceed by way of voluntary bill of indictment. Monroe was denied bail and remanded to the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services. Monroe will return to court on May 31st. Well, a 5-year-old boy is in hospital tonight after a hit-and-run accident left him with multiple injuries. Now his mother is pleading with the public for any information that can help police in their investigations.
I just want the person, I'm begging, pleading for the person who's responsible for hitting my son to come forward. Give me some closure to how you hit my son and he was in a yard. I'm begging you to come forward for me, please, so that I could have some closure and I could sleep.
It was shortly after 7 p.m. on Saturday when Cruzelle Nottage says she heard a loud boom outside her Centerville home. It wasn't until a bystander came running up to her house minutes later that Nottage realized something terrible had happened to her son, Mark Pierre.
Next couple of minutes, I see a gentleman coming running with him. And when I get him from the gentleman, he was passing out. And I just jumped in the car and I left. When he went to the hospital, he had a fracture to the forehead. He have a broken foot, a broken shoulder, and a fracture to the right leg.
Nottage says Mark had been sitting outside a house on Royal Palm Street just around the corner from their home when the accident occurred. He was sitting on a concrete slab, barking coconuts about 10 feet away from the street. She is still trying to understand how he was struck by a car.
He just a person would like to watch TV. It just happened that he was in the yard barking coconut, and the car scrolled off the road and hit him. He was like 10 feet away from the road. I don't know how the car got way over there to hit him like that. I just don't understand.
A mudguard from the vehicle was left at the scene of the accident before the vehicle sped off. Nottage says Mark will likely need surgery, but the 5-year-old seemed to be in better spirits today, saying a few words when she visited with him in hospital.
He is coming on. He's just in an out where the medication they have him on have him drowsy and he's in a lot of pain.
Now Nottage wants other parents in the area to take caution with their children and petition the government to make changes to the flow of traffic on the narrow street.
I am pleading the parents around here to please keep your children in the yard and stay off that road because that's a dangerous road now. I'm pleading to the government to please put a speed bump through this area, through Centerville area.
Our News attempted to contact the officer in charge of the hit and run section of the police traffic division. However, that section was already closed by the time our calls were placed. In other news, though she admits there could be more visible faces from the opposition coming out in support of the constitutional referendum, Long Island MP Loretta Butler Turner says public sentiment may have been different had Prime Minister Perry Christie apologized for campaigning against the referendum brought by the Ingram administration in 2002. Fonique 2 reports.
Less than 5 weeks before Bahamians vote in the long-awaited constitutional referendum, Long Island MP Loretta Butler Turner says the million-dollar question for many is why vote in favor of a referendum brought by a government that urged the public to vote no 14 years ago while in opposition. She says public views may have been different had Prime Minister Perry Christie apologized to Bahamians.
I think that it is being used as a political tool for retribution with regards to the Christie-led administration. I said at the onset when they determined that they were going to go forward with this that I thought Mr. Christie needed to apologize for the actions he'd taken 15 years ago.
At this stage, the former F&M deputy leader says it's too late to apologize. Though the opposition has voiced its support for the upcoming gender vote, we asked Butler Turner if she feels the Free National Movement could do more to convince those supporters hell-bent on payback to vote yes.
Persons like Ms. Lynn Holowesko and Senator Heather Hunt and others are certainly doing their part. Can we have more visible faces from the opposition? I certainly think so. But, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of people are saying that they're voting their conscience, despite the fact that the leader of the opposition has come out and firmly stated that this is the opposition's position. So I think that most people will just have to take their cue from what the leader is saying.
Sadly, she says misinformation about the 4 bills and calls for retribution have started to drown out the Constitutional Commission's message.
I believe that there is need for concern with regards to whether or not the referendum will in fact carry. I think a big part of what we're going through is misinformation. It's very important that the real message gets out there. I'm not entirely sure that the message of what the referendum is about is being heard over the murmurs of those who are dissenting that are saying no.
The referendum is set for June 7th. Reporting for Our News, I'm Fonique 2.